Hi, everyone. We're going to get started in just a second, so if you need something, now's the time. I would also highly suggest that during the next 4 minutes while I'm talking, if you need something, that's probably the better time to do it than when our guests come and join us. So, welcome, everyone. My name's Tracy DeVries. I'm Executive Director of the Women's Foundation of Mississippi. The last time we saw many of you was actually October of 2019. And at that time, we actually honored Rita Brent as a woman of vision that year. I'm really delighted to welcome her back this evening, especially because she has also joined our board this year. I promise to not take a lot of time, but I do need to go ahead and do a couple of thank yous. I want to take a moment here to say thank you to our event sponsors, Regions in Southern Healthcare. To all of our event hosts this evening, we very much appreciate you all. And to each and every one of you who came out tonight and purchased a ticket and have otherwise donated or participated with the organization over, for some of you, many, many, many years now. I also need to say a big thank you to our staff team, Frances Croft in particular for putting this entire thing together. Thank you, Frances. Letitia Latiker and Marquita Perkins as well. Thanks to you all for what you do every day. Also today, the other duties is assigned portion of the job description. And also to our board of directors, it's an amazing group of all women who serve on our board, and I appreciate all that you do year in and year out, giving of your time and your talent and your funds. A little bit about our organization. Our mission is economic security for women. As a public foundation, we raise money every year, and we combine resources from a variety of different donors to provide grants across the state of Mississippi that support women and girls in our three focus areas, which are access to opportunity, which are degree and skills programs for women, women's health care, and two-generation work, which focuses on the whole family, moms and kids. These right here are our most recent grant recipients. We're delighted to have some of them here in the room with us this evening. It's always good to see you all. I saw a few people. Hello. We also offer a variety of signature programs. Some of you have been to those or participated in them. One is called She's on Board. It's a training seminar specifically for women who are interested in serving on nonprofit boards. The next time that we will do that will be March 24th, 2023. And so if you follow us on social media or you're already getting our newsletter, you will see that information. You can sign up, all of the things. So keep an eye out for that. If you're not following us and you're not on our newsletter, go ahead and sign yourself up. We'll also do this year our Thrive at Work event in October of 2023, date to be announced. But this is another fundraising event for us, but it's an opportunity to highlight and engage business leaders in workplace policies that are good for women and families and that are good for the bottom line. They are not mutually exclusive. We also provide a variety of leadership development programs, and there are definitely some women in the room here this evening, I see you all over there, who are currently participating in a program called Mississippi Women in the Lead. We've actually partnered with the Mississippi Black Women's Roundtable. There she is, Ms. Welchin in the back. This is essentially an experiential fellowship program where women go through nearly a year's worth of training and then have the opportunity to participate with some organizations around advocacy work and to focus on women who are interested in running for office and serving in that way. So the reason that we're here tonight, Rita Brent is an award-winning comedian, musician, and military veteran. She grew up in Jackson, Mississippi, and credits her mother with single-handedly cultivating her talents and preparing her for the entertainment business. She's been a radio broadcaster at MPB and will be using those interview skills this evening. By the way, if you have not listened already, Rita did a series that we helped to support a couple of years ago a couple of years ago called Raised in the SIP. Their podcast, you can find them where you find podcasts, and they were some really powerful interviews. And so if you enjoy this evening, you're definitely going to want to go and listen to those as well. She's also appeared on countless TV shows. She tours with her mentors, Ricky Smiley and Cedric the Entertainer. Pardon me. And she has written for the Emmy Awards, the Academy of Country Music, the People's Choice Awards, and Stand Out, an LGBTQ celebration on Netflix. And we are very young in 2023, but she has also, she became a first-time Writers Guild Award nominee in 2 categories. So that's exciting. Rita Brent. I'm her fangirl. And of course, Angie Thomas is also from here. Born and raised in Mississippi, she now calls Atlanta her home. She's a former teen rapper whose greatest accomplishment was an article about her in Right On magazine with a picture included. She's blushing now. She holds a BFA in creative writing from just down the street at Belhaven University and an unofficial degree in hip hop. She's an inaugural winner of the Walter Dean Myers Grant 2015, awarded by We Need Diverse Books. And of course, her award-winning acclaimed debut novel, The Hate U Give, is a #1 New York Times bestseller and major motion picture from Fox 2000. Her second novel, On the Come Up, is on sale now as well, as a couple of others that are back in the room. Marian Wright Edelman is credited with saying, "You can't be what you can't see." I want to thank Rita and Angie for taking an hour earlier this afternoon to meet with a group of students who are no doubt inspired in many ways now. I am beyond delighted to welcome to the stage Rita Brent and Angie Thomas.
I hate going on stage and there are those chairs you have to hop up in, and when you're height challenged, it's like, is the entertainment me getting in this chair or is it me talking? So.
Your feet are dangling and all that. Good evening. Thank y'all for being here. Y'all look so nice. Man, in the blue, I see you, girl. Looking good. All right, so Angie, an honor to be here with you today, and congratulations on everything, first of all.
Congrats to you.
Man, that's what we're going to do. We're going to have congratulations competition.
Back and forth. Yes.
A pleasure to be sitting here with you. So let's start off strong. Book bans. No, I'm just kidding. We'll get to that. We'll get to the book bans. But, you know, I think about some people say they know what they want to be when they grow up. You'll hear entertainers say, "I knew when I was little what I wanted to do." Was that your reality? Tell me a little bit about little Angie.
Little Angie dreamed a lot and she wasn't sure what she wanted to be. I remember there was one point where I wanted to be a doctor. And then I realized how much blood is involved. And I said, no, that's not for me. But I always loved storytelling. However, you know, when I thought about, when I told a teacher of mine about that I wanted to be a writer, she encouraged me to write. But then another teacher was like, yeah, there's so many great writers from Mississippi. Eudora Welty, William Faulkner. I was like, oh, can I see them? And all I see is 2 dead white people. And I'm like, I'm not that. I can't.
You're not.
I was like, I don't think I can be one. But I loved storytelling, and I was trying to figure out for the longest, how can I tell the kinds of stories that I wanted to tell? And it took me going through a failure of trying to be a rapper, and then realizing that's not for me. If I got into a beef with somebody, I'd cry.
So no rap beefs for you. That's too heavy. Okay.
No, I'm not made for that life. But I still love storytelling. So I went to Belhaven, and while I was there, I studied creative writing, and I studied all kinds of writing in that program. And that's when I realized my love for fiction. And it was a professor who encouraged me. He said, well, if you want to write stories, write the kind of stories that you want to tell. Why write what you think everybody else wants? You know, write about your neighborhood, write about Jackson. There are stories here that need to be told. Somebody needs to tell them. So that's when I got the bug bite. but it took a while to get there.
So, in a world where they're trying to silence voices, they're trying to silence words and silence books, do you feel a responsibility to tell those stories?
To a degree, I do, but I think the responsibility is on everybody in this room to make sure that I can. You know,
Yes.
I can't. I can't show up at the school board meetings advocating for my book because I'm just going to look like somebody that wants her books sold.
Yeah.
You know, it takes people like the people in this room going to and making sure that books like mine are made available. We're in a kind of dangerous time right now, you know, when people are acting as if books are more dangerous than guns. And I have yet to meet a young person who has read any of my books and say that my books made them feel bad about themselves. The funny thing is, kids never identify with the bad people in the books. They never
Wow.
do. They never do. But the adults in their lives do. And they get uncomfortable about it, especially when their kids start realizing you have some of the same qualities as maybe the racists in this book.
Uh-oh.
You know? So, but the thing is, we're in a time now where people like you and me, our stories deserve to be told. For so long, we've been silenced or we've been the subject of stereotypes. And for once, we're finally getting in this space now where we can tell our stories, and we should have these opportunities to tell them as real and authentically as we should be able to, without people worrying about how comfortable they are when they read it. Because if my existence isn't comfortable, I should be able to tell that. And tough on you that it makes you uncomfortable. Be so uncomfortable that you want to do something to change it.
Okay, y'all better tweet this stuff. Y'all better tweet. So, on the topics of the book bans, how does that affect you? Does it bother you? Does it hurt you? And does it help your book sales?
It initially bothered me, but then I looked at the list of books that have been banned historically, and I'm in good company. And then when it first happened, it happened in Texas. And I will never forget, I was here in Jackson at Kroger on 55, right after the first time it was banned in Texas years ago. And this older white gentleman, he approaches me. He said, "Ain't you that author?" And I'm like, "Uh-oh." And I'm like, "Yes, sir." He said, "Didn't they ban your book in Texas?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Girl, you're doing something right. They ban everything there." So,
Yep.
but I'm still inspired because young people are fighting. They're fighting for those books to get back on the shelves. And so it bothers me and to a degree, but now I'm at the point it doesn't bother me as much. I will admit it bothered me when it happened in Ridgeland because my mom has a home in Ridgeland. My mom was like, "I'm moving, I'm gone. How dare they take my baby's book off the shelf?" Hey, mama. What bothers me more than anything is the message it sends to the real stars out there who pick up The Hate U Give, see themselves in this story. The message is telling them is, your story makes me uncomfortable, your life makes me uncomfortable, nobody should know about it, you should be silent. That's the issue I take. And so we need to think more about what are we doing so that young people's lives are reflected in these books and we make sure that they feel seen and they feel heard, even when it makes us uncomfortable. What can we do to make sure that they feel seen and heard and they have a voice and that we can have productive conversations so that we can improve things? Because my biggest hope for The Hate U Give is that it becomes irrelevant.
Ooh, yes.
I want young people to one day read that book and be like, it was like this? We went through that? You know, people went through that? I can't believe that. And the only way that's going to be possible is if we continue to have books like it available so that young people can recognize, here are the issues, here's what needs to be fixed, I can fix it.
That's good. And since you mentioned your mother, I'm curious about, and you praise her a lot, how did she teach you to be a visionary?
She looks ready to get up here. No.
Oh,
no,
you want the
ma'am.
mic?
No, please don't. My mom always encouraged me to dream, and my mom instilled faith in me from an early age. She instilled in me, well, baby, take it to God. If it's something you feel like you desire, take it to God, pray about it. I will never forget being 9 years old and wanting a Nintendo 64 so bad. And so she was like, well, pray about it. And so I remember putting a picture of it under my pillow, and every night I prayed for a Nintendo 64. I got it. I remember even younger than that, being a kid, wanting a bicycle. 5 years old, I wanted a bike. And she said, okay, let's pray about it. At 5, I prayed about it. No, I was 4. I prayed about it. And my elementary school, Johnson, every year the adopter of the school would give away a bike, but it was usually only to first through fifth graders, never kindergarten and pre-K. Well, that year that I prayed for that bike, they accidentally called my name as the winner of the bike. And from there, my mom was like, see, you believed it, you saw it, you prayed for it, you had faith. It happened. God, listen. That's why I'm a visionary, because of my faith and the faith she instilled in me and the way God blessed me with that bike.
Ah, that's good. So you believed before you saw.
Absolutely.
Which I think is challenging for some folks. They have to see it to believe it, which is fine to have an example. But yeah, believing is seeing.
Yeah.
So you saying all I got to do is pray for Biden to forgive these student loans? Because I've been praying for 12 years.
With 2 or more, come in agreement.
2 or 3 come together.
Hallelujah.
Okay, everybody bow your heads. I'm just
Amen.
kidding. Okay. All right. So we're both from Mississippi. You're from Georgetown. I grew up in Presidential Hills and then moved to South Jackson. We talked about this earlier with the girls. When we travel and we tell people we're from Mississippi, we're met with all kind of disrespect. You know, y'all wear shoes down there. Y'all still on horses. You know.
Y'all got toilets.
Yeah. Brett Favre stole that money. All kind of questions.
And now the whole water situation, they're like, do y'all got running water?
Yeah, the water situation was wild. For a while, I was like, I'm from Jacksonville. I ain't from Jacksonville. But I want to flip this and ask you, how has Mississippi helped your trajectory? How has it helped your journey? How has it shaped you as a thinker?
I wouldn't be the author I am without Mississippi. I know that for a fact. You know, but I used to tell my mom, I was like, it's so boring down here. I ain't got no choice but to do something but write. You know, but this place is full of so many rich stories. And I think it was Faulkner who once said, if you want to understand America, you need to understand Mississippi first. Right. You know, and knowing that there's so many layers to this state, to the people here. As a creative, you can't help but get inspired, you know. But I will say, too, being from a place that is so often looked down upon and being from a sector of society, a young black woman living in the hood, that's a sector that's so often looked down upon. You know, I know what it means to fight against the odds. I know what it means to fight against those stereotypes. So if nothing else, being from Mississippi gave me fight. It gave me a fighting spirit, and I'm thankful for that. And I'm thankful, though, too, for the roots of humility. I'm so glad I didn't grow up somewhere like L.A. Like, I meet people from L.A. I'm so glad I have.
On their skateboards. Yeah, skateboarding everywhere.
Meat, and no. I'm so glad I'm homegrown, you know, and I have those roots. So Mississippi breeds authenticity. And I hope to be proof of that.
So what is your relationship like now with Mississippi? Is it growing on you?
It is. You know, it's once you get away, you start to miss some things.
Listen, when I was in New York, listen, we've talked about this. In Atlanta as well, just the traffic is horrible. You know, we get on 55, we get anywhere in 10 minutes. Yeah. You know, when living in New York, the rent, we were paying $2,100 for a 700 square foot apartment. Mm-mm. You know what I mean? Like, we really take things for granted in Mississippi. But, yeah, your relationship.
Yeah, no, I was on the way back here. I hit traffic on 55, and I'm like, this is nothing.
Yeah, it'll be over in a flash.
It'll be all right. But, no, yeah, I think Mississippi, the thing about Mississippi, someone once described it, and it's not to downplay this, but someone once described it almost as having an abusive parent.
Yikes.
It's someone you love, but at times it doesn't feel like they love you back.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's someone who you would do so much for, but at times it feels like it spits in your face, especially as a black woman. But I would still, you can't talk about my mama.
That part.
Know?
That's what I feel like. Keep Mississippi name out your mouth.
You know, exactly. So it's so much like that, and that's for me. You know, I'm thankful I had a loving mother because I see her looking at me. My mom wasn't abusive or anything like that. I'm so you see the look she gave. But I can imagine that this is similar, and but I love this state and I know what it can be. I know what comes from here. I know there's so much good here, and I do not like anybody talking about it except for me. I can talk about Mississippi
That's
all
right.
I
It's like
want.
it's like a problematic cousin.
We can talk
Yeah.
about it all we want, but let somebody from New York come in here talking about Mississippi.
Yeah, we got problems.
Exactly. So it's a growing relationship. It's an evolving relationship.
Yeah, and I want to be part of the change in Mississippi. I don't want to be excluded from that. Yes. Who were you being interviewed by? Somebody famous. Let me see. Gayle King, I think. And you said this quote, and it really stood out to me. You said, "We have to stand in our authenticity as artists. I'm all about being your authentic self, all about speaking your truth, standing in your truth. As somebody who's had her books banned all over the country, I'm all about standing in your truth, regardless how it makes people feel, and I want young people to do that." So that sounds wonderful, and I subscribe to that. But how does one find the courage to be authentic when it feels like too big of a risk?
That's a good one. Because I don't want nobody losing their job. But I would say too, what I have to ask myself, and what I've asked myself a lot lately is, well, what's the other option? What's on the flip side? Do I want to regret not doing something? Do I want to look back and say, oh, I wish I would have been my authentic self in that? Or would I rather be my authentic self and maybe, wonder, did that go how it should have gone? Maybe not. I'd rather have regret about, maybe how it went as opposed to having regret that I didn't even give it a shot. And I'm learning that more and more in what I do. Writing for teenagers, I better be authentic. They will call you out.
Yes, and put you on TikTok.
Put you on TikTok.
Yeah.
Listen, they will do it quickly. So I have to be authentic with them. I have to be real with them. But they've taught me so much about that. Like I remember I did an event once and I was talking about code switching and I was like, I'm code switching right now. And this little group of teenagers, 15, 16-year-olds, black kids, they're like, yo, they came up to me afterwards. Yo, why you do that? I said, why I do what? Why you code switch? You ain't got to do that for nobody. You be you. I said, all right, cool. But I think, too, the more we're our authentic selves, the more we're going to force the world to accept it, whether they're ready for it or not. I think there will come a time where a young person won't have to code switch. I hope so, because we know what they're saying. Just because I speak a certain way does not take away from my intelligence, and I wish we'd get away from that mindset. But we have to foster an environment where people can be their authentic selves. It's about getting our comfort out of the way and allowing people to be. And that's something young people have taught me, and I hope more of us learn from them in that sense. They're authentic. They're being their authentic selves, and they're loving it and learning and loving one another and figuring things out while we're still sitting here trying to put them in boxes, and they've destroyed the boxes. So why can't we start destroying boxes ourselves?
Yes. When we were speaking with the girls earlier today, you revealed something that I didn't know, that you had a book that you had written before The Hate U Give that received 200 rejections. You pitched it and you kept getting no's until you finally got that yes. Now, for some people, they don't have that resilience. One no cripples, and it's like, okay, well, maybe this isn't for me. How did you find your perseverance?
I had to focus on my vision, focus on my dream, and not so much focus on the right then and the right now. I had to try to look ahead and imagine what could be ahead, and remind myself that if this is what I want, it will be worth it to keep going. That's what you have to focus on. This is all about visionaries and vision, blah, blah, blah. But if you have a vision for yourself, and that's what you know is your purpose, that's what you know is your calling, that's what the Holy Spirit has put down in you that you're supposed to do, but people don't seem to see it for you, you still got to see it for yourself, because it was given to you for a reason. And so that's what I had to keep telling myself, that look, just because I'm getting the no's now does not mean I will get the no's forever. And that book was rejected 200 times, and I put it aside. I decided, you know what, let me work on something else. The something else turned out to be The Hate U Give. Well, about a year and a half ago, I decided, you know what, I'm going to pick that book back up. Let me take some characters from it, rework it, and set it partially in Jackson, and let's see what we can do with this. I did that, and now I got a multi-million-dollar book deal.
Come on, somebody.
So, like,
Come on, somebody.
so what that reminded me was no isn't always no. Sometimes it just means not right now.
So to get specific when it comes to having a vision, for me, as it pertains to a vision, once I write it down, it makes it real. Or once I put it on Facebook, oh, this is what I'm going to do, then I have to hold myself accountable. Is it that particular for you? Do you write your vision down? Do you just speak it into being? For those starting from scratch, your suggestions.
Yeah, I write it down. I just don't put it on Facebook though. You can do that. I don't share everything with. I don't want everybody knowing. But that's me.
Yeah, I don't think that you should share your vision with everybody.
No, because everybody won't get it, and they're gonna find.
Or
ways
they'll
to
pray
discourage
against it.
Exactly, exactly. And we're not dealing with that kind of witchcraft. So, we're not letting them speak against us. No, but I do. I write stuff down, and sometimes I sit there and I try to envision who I want to be 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and I write that down as a reminder to myself. You know what? This is what you're aiming for. This is what you're going for. And sometimes it takes just doing that as a reminder. And a friend of mine, she does a vision board. I think that's a great way too.
Yeah.
But and even if you don't feel comfortable writing it down, keep it in your heart, keep it in your mind, and remind yourself what you're going for, and don't lose sight of it.
Do you have accountability partners, like people you do share your vision with and they hold you accountable and vice versa?
That one right there.
Your mother?
And one of my best friends too. So like I'm very limited in who I share it with, because not everybody's gonna understand it, and that's okay. But I'm not gonna let my thinking be limited by their thinking.
That's good.
We have to remember that.
Yes, that's good. So I think this is so amazing. At Belhaven, a scholarship has been named in your honor. Now, I don't know if you agree with this, but college seems a little overrated these days for people in here with children. I know that some kids are just not interested in college. Do you still think that is a path worth taking, because you majored in creative writing, but the path to get to where you are now, I know it's not the same for everybody, but your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's still an important thing. I don't think young people are taking into account that college isn't just about going to class and taking tests. It's about the experience. It's about the networking. It's about the relationships you create. It's about the communication and all of this and that. So I'm thankful that I went. It's about the exploration. It's the one of the times in your life, if you're privileged to go, where you can have the opportunity and the space to try to figure things out. You can change your major. You can change your college, this, and this, And I don't think they take that into account enough. But also I need more of us to stop pressuring our young people, acting as if that's the only way. Trade school is great. Not everybody's going to be a professor. We need plumbers too, and there's nothing wrong with that. So we need to give young people more space to figure it out. I think as a society, we make kids feel as if once you're 18, you need to know exactly what it is you want to do. How many of y'all in here are still figuring it out and you're not even nowhere near 18?
Right.
Exactly. We're all still figuring it out. So I think we have to give them space to learn themselves and grow and change.
Now, you brought up the word pressure. I imagine you feel a lot of that, especially being number one on the New York Times bestseller list. How do you deal with that? Because people are always like, well, what's next? As if what you've already done isn't good enough. So how do you deal with that pressure of measuring up to your accomplishments?
I will say, the second book was the hardest book I ever wrote because I felt so much pressure. On the Come Up was my hardest book. I'm still surprised that book succeeded. It's got a movie. Paramount Plus, check it out. I'm still shocked that it did anything because I put so much pressure on myself. But then after all that pressure I put on myself after the book came out and it did well, I was like, well, all that pressure was for nothing. Why did I even do that? So by the time I was working on the third one, I had to tell myself, look, write what you want to write. Tell the story you want to tell. And the best thing I do for myself is I unplug. I don't read reviews of my books. If you like it, great. If you don't, all right, fine, whatever. I don't read anything about me. I don't pay attention to the awards I get and stuff like that. Like stuff will come in the mail to my mom's house instead of mine. She's like, "Girl, this award just came from blah blah blah." Oh, cool. I don't
And why
focus on it.
why do you make that choice? Is it just keep you humble, or?
Oh yeah, to keep me humble, but also because that's not what I do this for. You have to remember what you do it for, why you do it, who you do it for. I'm not doing it for the reviews. I'm not doing it for the awards. If those were the things I was doing it for, then yes, I'd focus on that. So, and that would add the pressure. So I had to remind myself, why do I do it? Am I doing it for the accolades? Am I doing it so I can be a bestseller? No, I'm doing it because I love storytelling. I'm doing it because I want to give young people stories. So I have to focus on that. And that took so much pressure off of me.
That's good. All right, I'm sure this is a question many people want to know. So you have worked with some huge celebrities, Sanaa Lathan, Issa Rae, Anthony Mackie. Do you ever, and if you do, how do you deal with imposter syndrome? Questioning or doubting whether or not you belong in the room. I definitely struggle with that. You know, when I wrote for the Emmys, I was in a writer's room with folks who had written for In Living Color and Eddie Murphy and Chris Rock, and I was the baby in the room. And I'll be honest, I told my mom, I was like, I don't know if I belong here. And mom was like, yes, you do. You're there. You know,
Absolutely.
but that self-doubt and the imposter syndrome will sneak up on you every once in a while. So what is your approach to combating that?
Yeah, oh no, I dealt with it. I still deal with it. I was at, I mentioned it earlier, I went to Tyler Perry's studio opening a couple of years ago. And that thing was huge. Oprah was there. I mean, Beyonce showed up. She was like, where that thing is right there, that's where Beyonce was from me.
My Lord.
I know, wow. You know, Halle Berry had on a big hat. It hit me in the face and she apologized. I mean, Bill Clinton put his hand on my shoulder without permission. It was
Why am I not surprised?
that whole thing. So I have to tell. Tyler had he had this Sunday church service and he had it in this big tent, but you couldn't tell it was a tent. He had that thing looking like an actual church.
Yeah.
And so my mom, I brought her. We get there early to get our seats. We sit on the end, you know. And so we see these guys in these black suits standing around like, oh, okay, this is interesting. And so I feel this hand fall down on my shoulder and this southern voice, wow, this is nice. I can't tell this is a tent. Can you tell this is a tent? And I'm like, why you got your, oh. I'm so glad I didn't touch him because the Secret Service probably would have come out. It was Bill Clinton. Of course, Bill Clinton puts his hand on folks he don't even know. He's like, I'm Bill. Nice to meet you. I'm like, you should have started with that.
Well, clearly, you know him.
I know him, but he don't know me.
True.
I mean, there was some. Now that I think, I need to talk to my therapist. There was some stuff that happened that weekend.
Oh. Anything you want to share? He won't leave the room.
Did he kiss me without permission
P. Diddy.
on my cheek? I
Uh.
was like, I don't know where your lips been.
A lot of places. He ain't always been Diddy. He was puffy at some point.
And as a Tupac fan, I was like, man, if you don't get the heck up off of me. But anyway, that weekend was a prime example of feeling like, why am I here? You know, why am I here?
And when did you realize that you were supposed to be there?
I realized I was supposed to be there when Tyler himself got me. And he came over to me. He found me. And he said, I'm so glad you're here. I was like, this is a lot. I don't know. He said, listen. And this is what I took with me. He said, listen, anytime God orders your steps and puts you somewhere, that's where you're meant to be. He said, don't ever let anything or anybody take that from you. He said, if you here, you're supposed to be here. Mm-hmm. That's what I took from that. That's what I take now whenever I go into space and I'm like, am I supposed to be here? I remember what Tyler Perry of all people said. If you're supposed to be here, if you're here, you're supposed to be here. Mm-hmm. Know that. So even when I'm like, okay, Lord, I'm Bill Clinton, but you know, okay, I'm here.
Somebody said that should be your next book.
The love Bill Clinton did.
The night Bill touched me. You talk about banned. Now don't y'all go tweeting about this and start no mess. We gonna know it came from somebody in this room. We have your emails. So who do you listen to? Whose voice do you give value in your life? Because there's a lot of chatter. You know, I listen to my mother. She's like my spiritual guide, and it's just wonderful that we have that.
And they've been just chitter-chatting.
Yeah, they
all
just bonding
evening.
over there. But whose voice do you listen to, and whose do you silence?
Well, I listen to my mom's for one. Sometimes she says not all. She says not all the time. But you know what I've been doing for the past few months is learning to identify and listen to the Holy Spirit. I've gone on a spiritual transformation the past few months. The Lord has done amazing things through me, and I know He's got more coming. And I'm so thankful that I know His voice when I hear it, because that's key, you know. And knowing that and listening to that, I've started to silence all the other stuff. I mean, I listen to my agent, I listen to my editor, I listen to, you know, fellow author friends and stuff like that. But the voice that I listen to the most is that one. That still voice, you know, in the midst of the storms, whatever it may be, I listen for that. I seek that. And that has not led me astray yet. And I'm so thankful for it. So that's the big one. But I also want to listen to people who have done what I want to do. You know, I look at like the Tyler Perrys. I look at the Issa Raes, and I look at them, and I see what they've done, and I look to what their advice is. And I think it's important to do that, but also to know too that if I want God to do something in me that hasn't been done before, I can't limit myself to even their advice. So
You better speak. You gonna be a preacher at some point. That's fine. We'll settle for author for right now. Best-selling author.
my church would be ratchet.
Hey, we need a ratchet church. See, that's the thing. We need a ratchet church. We need authentic religious leaders.
We're gonna be doing remakes of Tupac songs.
You know what I'm saying?
Like, I don't
Keep
know.
your head up, Jesus. Hallelujah. Since you brought it up, I sometimes mentally it is a struggle to be a creative or to try to be a visionary. It's a struggle because if you're later in life, you have children and you're trying to help them grow, and sometimes you forget about yourself. I think about my mother had me at a young age, and then she put all of her wants and desires on the back burner, and you know, just recently got her doctorate, so she had to come back to that. But when the stresses of life, you know, are coming your way, how do you stay grounded? I know you mentioned therapy, but I think the mental health is extremely important too, and it cannot be underestimated.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, my therapist, I'm so thankful for her, and that's been a huge help. And just unplugging too, you know, and coming here to Mississippi, getting away from other stuff helps a lot too. Staying grounded, and also just learning that I'm more than my career. I think a lot of times we get so caught up in our titles. If you're a parent, you know, you get caught up in that title. If you're a doctor, if you're a lawyer, you get caught up in titles. And we have to understand we're more than a title. I'm more than an author. I'm more than that. I'm a human being. I'm a woman. I'm a person who has, you know, other desires and needs and all of these things. And it's okay to focus on that more so than the career stuff. So it's about the best thing I do for myself is, you know, don't worry about that author stuff. Don't worry about that work stuff. Unplug away from that for a bit and separate myself from that. You know, so like when I leave here, I'm gonna go get my dog from the sitter. We're gonna go play. He's gonna tug at my sleeve. I'm gonna have to get out this dress because I can't have that. But you know, we're gonna play, and you know, there's nothing that makes you feel more humble than a dog that will, you know, expect you to clean up after it.
Yeah,
Like,
picking up hot
yeah, there's
stuff.
nothing to keep you more humble. So it's just focusing on those things, the small things that help me to unplug and help me to stay grounded.
You mentioned earlier to the young girls that your prayer life is very important to you. What if somebody is not religious? I know people who are veering away from religion. They have questions about Christianity and the root of it. So in a spiritual sense, what are some tips and tools to keep you grounded?
Well, just, as an advocate for Christianity, I say it's not about the religion, it's about a relationship.
Yes.
Period. But if that's not you, I would say you still need to have something that grounds you. You have to believe in something bigger than yourself. Because this world is so overwhelming that you have to believe in something bigger than you, and you have to at least believe in a bigger purpose than you. So I would say, take those times. If it's not prayer, do some meditation. Be with yourself, if nothing else. Be with your thoughts for a bit, and clear your mind. But believe in something beyond you, and focus on something sometimes beyond you, and it can go a long way. I think self-care is paramount, and however that may look for you is important, but sometimes self-care just means getting away from everything and being one with your thoughts. I think that can sometimes be the best thing. Like earlier today, I sat in my yard on a towel, and I just sat there in the grass, just one with my thoughts, praying and meditating. And then here comes my dog pulling at my sleeve. But again, having that time with me and the God I serve does wonders for me. So, but even if you're not religious, having that time with yourself, that quiet time to listen to your thoughts, to listen to your heart, can go a long way.
That's good. We're going to open the floor for questions in just a minute, but just wanted to know, is it okay for your vision to change? How do you know when it's time to adjust the vision?
It's definitely okay. My vision at 13 and 17, I wanted to be a rapper. That's not happening. So it changes because we change. We evolve, we grow, we learn, we become new people. So of course, as we change, sometimes our vision will shift and change as well. And I think that's a beautiful thing, and we have to allow it to change. I don't think as adults we give ourselves enough grace to grow. We act as if, once we're grown, we know what we know, we can't change, we can't learn, we can't blah, blah, blah. Yes, we can. We're supposed to. And we have to give ourselves that permission, and give ourselves permission to let our vision shift. And know, too, that just because it's changed doesn't mean it's still not important, doesn't mean it's still not something that can be achieved. And also, but it's so important also to still have a vision. Even once you've reached, that initial vision, okay, what's next? What do you see for yourself next? How do you see yourself next? What's the next thing? I think you have to do it because it does something not only for your soul, but there's something about finding your purpose. There's something about figuring that out, or at least getting an idea of it, that keeps us going. So, yeah, I need y'all to be dreamers. I think we get to a certain age and we act like we can't dream, because that's really what a vision is about. It's about dreaming. So I need us to keep dreaming no matter how young or old we are. Keep dreaming, keep visioning things for yourself. And that will inspire the next generation to do the same.
Yes, I think that's a good note to end on. Angie, thank you so much. And thank you for your courage in the face of adversity. I mean, just getting your books banned. How silly. So what we're going to do now, and I feel inspired. Do y'all? Do y'all take notes? Okay. So what we're going to do now is take questions from the audience. If you have any for Angie, if you have any for me, our Vanna White is going to walk around with the microphone. So any questions, we can take those at this time. I know y'all got some.
Hi, I'm Tori Martin. One question I do have is, we've talked a lot about the book bans, but are you aware of an organized effort to remove the bans? Is there one that you support?
Oh, I do know that shout out to the teachers and the librarians who are fighting all the time. I know that the American Librarian Association is always doing things. I don't know of specific organizations. To be honest, I try to stay out of it because I know if I get involved, it's gonna be like, oh, here's the author. You know, of course the author wants the book. But I will say, not only are teachers and librarians fighting, young people are. When it happened the first time in Texas with the Hate U Give, it was a school district outside of Houston. And this one young lady, 15 years old, loved the Hate U Give. And she said, I want this book still in the schools. So she got a petition. She got like over 100 signatures. She went before the school board herself. She did a PowerPoint presentation better than anything I've ever done. And she got the book put back on the shelves. But even before she did all of that, the kids were still passing it out in the hallways amongst each other like, you know, it was contraband. So I will say I'm hopeful, but what it will take is it's going to take people from the community showing up at these meetings as well. It's going to take the parents who do love these books, who do know that these books are doing or benefiting their kids. It's going to take y'all showing up because the detractors are loud. But the supporters got to be just as loud, if not louder. So we need more people speaking up and speaking out for them. Y'all have just as much of a right to show up at a school board meeting as anybody else.
What happens if a teacher just assigns the book anyway?
They get fired.
Oh, okay.
That's what's been happening a lot. A lot of teachers have had their job security on the line because of books. And I'm like, all the things that are happening right now. People are getting fired over books. Do you know how desperate we are for teachers? Do you know how much we need teachers? And their livelihood is being put on the line because of books. So it's a fight, but I'm not gonna give up. I still have hope. But it's gonna take people being loud in support, just as loud as the negativity is.
But it's also a testament to the power of these books because otherwise they wouldn't be trying to block and stop. It's the same as voting rights. I mean, they literally killed people to block black people from voting and trying to do the same thing right now. So that is a testament to the importance of continuing to write important material.
Yeah, and I wish they realized that when they ban these books, they only make the kids want to read them more.
Right, right.
Like, I've had kids who've reached out to me and they're like, I'm sorry, I downloaded it illegally, but they banned it and I'm like, you know what, baby? I've made enough. I'm good. It's all right. So
Also, they're being honest with you.
they be honest.
Oh.
I'm like, you know, our kids are honest. Like, I've had kids write to me and say, so I'm doing my homework and the question is blah, blah, blah. How would you answer this? I'm not doing your homework for you.
Hey, Dr. Owens, how are you?
Hey, doing great.
The host of Southern Remedy for Women Fridays on Mississippi Public Broadcasting.
So now you know how Rita and I met. So I'm Michelle Owens. I was okay with the blood, so I ended up staying with the medical route.
Good job.
But I have a daughter who is 9 years old, and she has developed over the course of the past year a love for literature and a love for writing. And so one of the things that she has decided to do is she writes these books and these stories. And I just was wondering, what advice would you give to, if you're looking back, thinking about what you know, because publishing and book deals and all those things and encouraging writing is kind of something that seems very nebulous, and a lot of people don't really know how to get into it. So what advice would you give to younger individuals who find themselves loving telling stories and writing stories if they wanted to somehow follow in your footsteps?
Yeah. Well, right now I would say just do it for fun, for the love of it. Write and read a lot. I tell kids that all the time. They're like, how do I become a writer? I ask, do you read? Oh, you got to read. So encourage that. Encourage reading. And as they get older, I tell them too, if they want to be a published author at 16, they can. I know some. You know, it's possible. But the best way to become a writer is to become a learner, to become a reader, to learn and to learn the craft and to learn it by reading different kinds of books. So I would say that's a great start. And then, you know, if you later on you want to take it, they want to take it, you know, make it a career, take some classes. You don't necessarily have to study it in college, but, you know, libraries offer classes on writing, things like that, you know. Meet writers, go to book events. I think that's a huge one for kids. I think more kids need to go to book events if they want to be an author, so they can see someone and see them in the flesh and say, oh, wow, I can do that. You know, I have so many kids who come to my events and they're like, okay, now I think I can do it because they've seen me. So, you know, I have a book coming out in April for her age range. We're going to have an event hopefully with Lemuria Bringer. Bring her to it, you know, and I'll sign a copy for her and everything, you know. So I think it's just at where she is right now, encourage it, get her books, show her authors who look like her, let her read books about people who look like her, and that will go a long way.
There's Tabby from the film office. Hey, Tabby.
Rita, how are you doing? Angie, I appreciate both this conversation just in general. And I agree with so much of what you said, just about the authenticity of Mississippi. And being from Mississippi, that's kind of, Mississippi breeds authenticity, I think is what you said. So I guess my question is about that. You know, you talked about having this kind of relationship, Mississippi having being the parent, right? The abusive parent. Just out of curiosity for both of y'all, like what's your vision for Mississippi, like moving forward? You know, since we're talking about, you know, keep it as long or short as you want, but just out of curiosity, we're here talking about visions. But what is your vision for Mississippi moving forward, for you? You know, however that resonates and however that comes out, I'm interested.
I'll let
to
you
hear.
take this first.
Well, getting the Confederate flag down was one thing that's, you know, that's progress. My vision for Mississippi is that we are all well represented. It seems to just be a certain type of folks in leadership that does not represent the community. And that is massively frustrating because I don't feel seen, yet I pay money in Jackson, I pay taxes. You know, I want the potholes to get fixed. That's part of the vision. That's just a small thing. We talked about the small stuff, fix them potholes on Mill Street. But yeah, just better representation. I think that's important, and it could also prevent our talent is being exported. They say that people don't want to stay in Mississippi because they don't have hope. What you stay here for a long time and you're here now. But you go, but then you still give back. That's important, you know. So you're not in that, but we export a lot of talent, you know. And so I think if there were better representation, better support, and just go on somewhere with the supremacy and the privilege. Like, that's such old news. It's so outdated and it's just so old. I think if we could just get over that, you know, it's almost like we're trying to hold on to the old narrative. Like, you know, every time we get close to something and then we pull back. Yeah, and another part of that vision is quit welcoming celebrities, you know, that then leave and talk noise about us, because I am not happy about Deion Sanders at all. So having people in this state who have a real investment in the state and its progression and, you know, are not just opportunists. Yes.
Yes, everything Rita said. Everything Rita said. And side note on the potholes, in this book I got coming out in April, is a fantasy book, Nick Blake and the Remarkables. It takes place partially in Jackson, and there's a magical explanation for the potholes.
I want to hear this. And if my song, Can You Rock Me Like a Pothole, is not the soundtrack for this book, I know something. Give back to me, Angie.
I don't know if that's going to be appropriate. It's about 12-year-olds, Rita.
Okay.
They can't ride nothing like a no.
For the record, babies sing that song all the time.
Oh.
Just for the record.
Okay. Well,
But your vision for Mississippi.
No potholes in Jackson. And a place of equity. You know, there are, what a kid in Jackson needs is not the same as a kid in the Delta.
Yeah.
What a kid in West Jackson needs is not the same as a kid in Madison. And we talk about, equal opportunity, blah, 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 but some of our young people just need basic needs met.
Yes.
And I wish we lived in a state that actually cared about the basic needs of our most vulnerable people when there are so many of them. My hope for Mississippi is, too, that we can get from the bottom of all these lists. I get tired of
Oh
being
my
at the bottom.
God. Yes.
I get tired of Mississippi being at the bottom. I get tired of folks from Alabama saying, at least we're not Mississippi. No,
Right.
forget you. That's my vision for Mississippi, that, that this place that I know can be great and this place I love, that's reflected on a bigger scale. The good here is reflected on a bigger scale, and that people also stop doubting us. And that, we become one of those places. You know what? I like going to Mississippi. It's nice. This is one place people are like, I'd never go there for a vacation. Well, forget you. We got good beaches and stuff, too.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, no, we don't.
Not when the water's same color as our skin, Angie.
But let's hope that's a better Mississippi one day then, too. Better.
Yes, we'll import some blue water.
But if nothing else, just getting off the bottom of all these different lists,
Yes.
that would be a wonderful thing.
That would be great, yes. And I think as people visit Mississippi more, I speak with Tabby all the time about folks coming here to do films. What's the man named Tate Taylor brings people to Natchez all the time, and some of those stars go on to buy a home in Natchez, and then they start with the infrastructure. So that's good. Once you experience Mississippi, you realize that there is some goodness here in comparison to the challenges you made and the things you experience in New York and LA. I feel really grounded here. I like just driving and not hearing horns, and I have pulled over on the side of the road to touch cotton, just to connect with my ancestors, because my grandmother picked cotton. She's still alive. She picked cotton in the Delta, so like these are my roots, and I don't want to get away from them. I think it's a lot of folks' roots. Once they get here, they realize that. So I think it is important that we continue to change the narrative.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Hi there.
Where are you? Hi.
Good evening. I am a transplant from California. It's beautiful here. But I'm from Tennessee. I was born and bred in the South. And so when I decided to retire, well, first of all, I was diagnosed with a double negative tumor cancer. I'm cancer free.
Yes.
And I didn't tell anybody where I was moving because I knew I would get that backlash. But what is so interesting is they know nothing about the South. That's right. Black wealth originated from the South, and so did white wealth. So finally it got out, oh, Dr. Terry is retiring, she's going to Mississippi. Girl, what you doing going to Mississippi? I said, what do you know about Mississippi? Well, they brought up all the history. I said, I said, racism is right here. I was on a hiring committee. I taught at the community college for over 20 years. I taught in the public schools in Nashville. Oprah and I were the first African Americans to be on television in Nashville. That was a dream. My dreams came true. I mean, to me, I think we need to redefine what's rich. It is not about money. I didn't say you had to be broke, but it's not about money. It's about your dreams coming true. People die in the graveyard with their connections. They don't want to share them. And I told somebody, if you try to take me out of Mississippi, boy, I'd have you arrested. Because I love it here. I'm grounded here. Now, why did I go back to Knoxville, Tennessee? Well, most of my family has died. I'm the baby, and I'm 3 years old. And but I knew that I needed to go. I needed to return. This is my roots. I didn't want to live in a condominium anymore. I wanted to live in a home that I grew up in. And so I started looking about a year and a half. And anyway, my good friend of 45 years who's from Jackson, Brenda Moman, and she said, Angela, why don't you come to Mississippi? I said, I haven't been there, but I'd love to come. I have a bucket list. First of all, I want to make sure there's a good medical community. Check. I wanted to finish my book, which is kind of an opportunity. I was the one that said that I knew Joe Maxwell, who taught you at Belhaven. And his stepmother, I hate to use the word step, the wife of his father is my neighbor. And when she found out I was going to finish my book here, she got busy with Joe. Joe, aren't you going to introduce Angela to Angie Thomas? Well, I'm busy, I'm so, and he'd say, here she comes. That's why I'm here. And my book, I do have a chance, Angie, I really look up to you. I look up to you also, like a comedian. I took my dissertation. My dissertation was the lived experiences and teaching practices of African American teachers who taught in the segregated South. These are unsung heroes. You know, we hear about Martin Luther King, but there are those of us who have grown. I mean, we go into a dilapidated building, but our teachers bring roses and flowers and tell us we can be anything we want to be. You see, some of the students I taught in community college for over 25 years, they don't even know what dreams are. You know, with Langston Hughes, what happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun, or does it? Oh, it's just, they had to repeat that every single day. That's how I didn't realize that I was doing the same thing that my teachers did for me. You know, we have to keep hope alive. And all these books and all this, you're right, we must do something about it. But kids are selling these books out of the trunk of their cars. So what is it that America needs to change its education system? You've got teachers who run past the students to get out of the schools when the bell rings. They knock the students down trying to get out. Come on now. We need that dedication of these teachers who taught during racial segregation. As Angela Davis would say, when she sang, lift up her voice and sing, she talked about this. All of my teachers have made their transitions, but it was a wonderful thing just to interview them. And my book is lifting them up, teaching the hidden curriculum to help African American students beat the odds.
Thank you.
Well, I say too, we do need more teachers, but we also need to make sure teachers have the resources they need. Teachers have the pay that they need.
Right.
We have to, the teachers do not get paid nearly enough for all that they do. Let's be real. Teachers spend more time with your kids than you do. If you look at the hours spent in a week, and we don't compensate them enough. We expect them to be therapists and educators at times, parents too. So we need to make sure teachers have more resources. And I will tell you all, a great way to support teachers is a website called donorschoose.org. It's almost like a GoFundMe for educators, and teachers will put their lists up there of things that they need funded. Sometimes it's just they need Kleenex and sanitizer in the classroom. They need books, blah, blah, blah. You can pick classrooms from right here in Jackson and help these teachers get these supplies into their students' hands. So let's make sure we're supporting them so that they can be there for our kids.
You repeat that website one more time?
It's donorschoose.org.
Awesome. Yeah, on the topic of school shootings, they were discussing whether teachers should have guns in the classroom, and the teacher's like, we don't need guns, we need markers. That's what we need. Yeah. Any other questions, Tracy? Okay.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Welch. I grew up very close to my grandmother, Grandma Jane, who was a third-generation college graduate, and she taught English and Latin for 40 years and wanted me to go to college, and she loved to share books with me, and that was one of our common ways that we shared, things together. And Rita, I had an aha moment when you were talking recently about speaking a certain way in front of an audience, and I think that I'm aware of the privilege that I've had to have a college education, But I was wondering if you would elaborate some on colloquialism or dialect, and whether or not proper English is really Anglo-Saxon English, and how someone like me can be a little bit more aware of the privilege around education.
Yeah, that's the problem. When you say talking proper, people equate that to talking white. Or if there is a black person who enunciates, they say, "Oh, why are you talking white?" Like my wife is like that. She she speaks very proper, and people tell her all the time, "You sound white." But I'm like, why is white the standard of excellence for language and speaking? I don't think it should be. And Angie can elaborate on this because she is intentional about how she writes in her book. Sometimes she says she uses Ebonics. But to your point earlier about code switching, when I first began working at Mississippi Public Broadcasting, I was trying to speak away because I was aware that most of the listenership was white. And it came off very inauthentic. And I realized that it didn't matter if people didn't want to listen after they discovered I was black, then they just wouldn't listen. But once I started being myself and just speaking how I speak, which is not bad, after I started just being myself, I really blossomed at the station. So just the mere fact that you're aware of that and that you can identify the problem, that means that we can start to fix it. But I think Angie can elaborate because you said in your books you say finna and ain't and stuff like that because it's relatable.
Absolutely. It's the way we talk. It's the way we communicate. And we have to make sure we stop putting out this messaging that if someone uses certain words, that takes away from their intelligence. It does not. If you understand
Right.
what I'm saying, that's the point of communication. If you get it, you get it. We're communicating, you know? And that doesn't take away from my intelligence. I will say ain't, I will say finna, I will say gonna, and I still had a 3.98 GPA at Belhaven University.
Right.
You know, so I get why though. The thing is, code switching is now it's a survival tactic. We have not fostered an environment where we can thrive without it. And so I tell young people that they still have to use it because there's still going to be people out there who make assumptions about them. But I think what we, like us in this room, we can start being the ones who stop making those assumptions. We could be the ones who pay attention and listen. You know, some of y'all had Meemaws who said ain't and stuff too, and you still understood what Meemaw said. Meemaw was still wise. That did not take away from Meemaw's wisdom. So why
Right.
does it take away from Devontae's wisdom as he's going down the street when he says ain't and finna? You know? So we can encourage, we want young people, we want people, period, to communicate because we have we are having a communication issue in this society right now. We have a communication issue in this country. And if we stop focusing on how people say things and instead focus on what people say,
Yes.
it would take us far.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Brenda Myers, and I am an author, entrepreneur, visionary as well. And I have two things. One is a statement. The statement is if someone looks at you and say, "Oh wow, you speak really well," that's not a compliment. It's just they're expecting you not to. And the second thing is, as far as publishing, how do you feel about novice authors self-publishing as opposed to going to the 200 rejections where they might not have the intestinal fortitude to withstand it and keep going?
Self-publishing is a great avenue, but I will also say know what you're getting into if you're getting into self-publishing. You're going to be the one doing everything. You know, with me, I don't have to worry about marketing. Like Rita likes to say, that's not my ministry. Marketing is not my ministry. You know, I don't have to worry about publicity because they have someone to handle that. But when you're self-publishing, you do it or you're going to hire somebody out of your own pocket to do it. I think it's a great way to make it as an author, to thrive as an author. And if you're someone who feels as if, you know what, I can handle that, I can do that, then go for it. You know, because one thing also is that with publishing, we're still trying to knock down doors and knock down walls that allow for people like me to be able to tell stories, people like you to be able to tell our stories. You know, in my field, Kids Lit, the year The Hate You Give came out, there were still more books featuring animals and trucks as the main characters than black kids. You know, so I'm still pushing. I'm in an environment that is not necessarily always open to authors like me. So know that as well, and but know that if they won't open the door for you, you just, like Tyler Perry said, they're not gonna let you at the table. Build your own table, and that's what self-publishing allows you to do.
But even with your agents, you know, you have to give them percentages and things. Yeah, because I hate giving a percentage. I hate it. I just got rid of my manager. I'm like, this too many percentages. Ain't no percentages left for me. But you talked about that, having a literary agent, and you said if they ask you for money, then that's as my grandmother says, it's a dead cat on the line.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. No.
You don't know what that means, but you know what it means, right?
know what you
Yeah.
Yeah. No. A legit literary agent will not ask you to pay them up front. They get paid when you get paid. They get a percentage, and they're gonna work for that by negotiating that contract and stuff like that. So yeah. Otherwise, dead cat on the line.
Dead cat on the line. I think we had. Is that it, Tracy? Okay.
It's not we've enjoyed hearing from you. I was just going to ask Ms. Brent, when your vision as a younger person, did you see yourself as a comedian, as a writer, as an actress? What moved you when you were younger, and how did you get to where you are?
Oh, well, I am fortunate to have had a mother who cultivated a lot of my talents, and she supported me in whatever I did, because I did a lot. I was on student council, and then I started drumming at a very young age. I didn't start being interested in comedy until 24, because I didn't see Mississippi as a place where comedy thrived. I'm thinking music, so I did that too. But I was just fortunate to have a mother who was extremely supportive and made sacrifices for me to pursue my interests. And I realized not everybody has the means to do that, because it takes money to put your children in extracurricular activities, because you got to have a uniform for everything. And then they want you to have different color uniforms. You got to pay for those. And then you had to pay for different shoes and instruments. And I play the drums, so that's like 8 pieces. So I always did the most expensive things, but it's paying off. It's paying off. But as Angie was saying about your vision shifting, I am committed to not putting myself in a box and not letting anybody put me in a box. And if I decide today that I don't want to do comedy anymore, I want to become a rapper, I'm going to make that decision, because I feel that God is with me. And I say this all the time, that what is divine cannot be denied. So as long as you stay out of the way, you listen to the Holy Spirit, and you trust your instinct on what it is that you're supposed to do, your passion will become your purpose, and then your purpose will turn into money. Yes.
Thanks, you all. Unfortunately, we have met the time. And I want to say just an enormous thank you to both Rita and Angie for joining us tonight.
Good job. Good job. You're awesome. We gonna do a rap duo? Let's do it. Don't play with me, y'all do. We're gonna be a rap duo.
Yeah. We're going to be called the Pothole Sisters.
But I'm telling you, if we get in a beef with somebody, I'm crying. I'm not gonna
Well,
be
that's
no
fine.
good.
That's distracting if you just cry. And
I'm gonna guilt trip them.
yeah, you cry and I'll run. And then we're going to co-write something.
We'll do a follow-up to the Ride Me Like a Pothole.
Okay. You want a rap verse on it?
Oh, Lord. Let me think about that.
All right. Sorry.
Are you going to do that now?
Rock. Tracy, don't egg me on. Look, Angie blushing. We'll work on it, and we'll drop it later this year.
All right. We'll bring y'all back next year, and we can
Awesome.
do that. That'll be great. Thank you all for coming tonight. It's so appreciated. Thank you for your time and sharing your stories with us. We are grateful. You're welcome to stay and continue to spend time with each other and chat. For our sponsors and our event hosts, if y'all want to go on upstairs shortly, that's lovely. Please check with Francis or I if you're confused. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now.